Hi everyone, and here, pronouns they, them, head of community at Livepeer, and this is Watercooler Chat, our weekly Monday event where we hang, chat, and talk all things Livepeer. For myself, I don't have a ton of announcements, but I think a major one to highlight is we are above 50% participation again. So we're starting to see that inflation rate tick down, which is very exciting. Other than that, we have some good updates from Foundation. So Rick is going to give us announcements on that end.
Yeah, thank you, Anne, for letting me first. So on the foundation side, we have been working hard. There is an update also in the general channel. We do a weekly update. You can see everything that we're doing at the foundation. But this update is mainly about the advisory board, so to help people give a little bit of information what they have been doing last week, what came out of that, and then tomorrow there will be Rich joining also the fireside to give more information, deeper insights. So previous week with the advisory board. So the advisory board's members identified overlaps, intersections, and interdependencies be the advisory board. So these were the heads of the boards that did this. Well, we looked at all the challenges, risks, and opportunities. We looked at the pillars that were created, and then we looked at interdependencies between the boards. Also, we further synthesized the strategic pillars for the Livepeer network and refined them, ensuring that there is a strongly aligned board among board members. And these will be published tomorrow and will be presented in the fireside. For this week, so what are the advisory boards going to do this week? So with long-term strategic pillars now established, we will move into the design phase. That's about translating the strategy into actionable steps, meaning board members will develop tactical recommendations based on the agreed strategic pillars and objectives that were provided. And the goal there is to really bridge the gap between our current state and the future vision outlined in our strategy. Later this week, board members will discuss and vote on the strategic objectives that were created using this information by the heads or the chairs of the board, and then evaluating also the feasibility of the recommendations against real-time, real-world constraints. And after that, we will also share that with the community the week after. So that were the updates from the advisory board. So if you guys want to learn more, you can join tomorrow the fireside for a deeper dive into this strategic pillars, objectives, and also then yeah, that's tomorrow. So Wednesday, not tomorrow. Sorry for that, Joseph. I already thought it was Tuesday.
All right.
Thank you for pointing it out. Thank you for the time, man.
Of course. Another announcement, as I was promising, there's going to be some more community activations in 2 weeks' time, and we're starting the marketing for it now. There's going to be 3 delegator workshops. One is going to be in Abuja, Nigeria, which is the capital city. The other one's going to be in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the US, which is where I live. And the third one will be online. The target is to get 200 additional delegators to delegate for at least a month. It's a small scale experiment exploring a pay to learn. Each participant will get $5 in LPT up front, and then upon 1 month of delegation, receive another 5 LPT. The workshop is Web 2 and Web 3 friendly, ideally for new people, but of course someone's an expert Web 3 person and they're just interested in Livepeer, they can attend as well. If you're interested, I mean, anyone can create a new wallet and become a delegator. We just posted the event links to RSVP in the event tab, so feel free to go over there, RSVP, and of course, feel free to share it around. Especially the online one, there will be 160 seats there. And yeah, I'm super excited. It will be led by me. And I'll also be developing a few more workshops, particularly around Gateway and Orchestrator. And I will be collaborating with some folks in the community to make sure those are well done, as I still am not to the technical prowess of many of you here. All right, well, that's the announcements for today. We're going to move on to the topics. The first one is community sentiment. This is a pretty important topic for me, at least. One of my passions in Web3 is how do we conceptualize opinions, especially around like on-chain voting. My big perspective is how do we make the process as democratic as possible, and how do we include as many voices as possible in the process. I have my own opinions about it, but I'm really curious what everyone here thinks. I'll start with my opinions and feel free to jump off mic or type in the comments. But for me, I am really interested in anyone who has at least some LPT, maybe the threshold's 1 LPT or 10 LPT or whatever we think is a meaningful threshold for, you're not just a spam opinion. But essentially, over a certain threshold of LPT holding, we see, hey, is everyone agreeing with how orchestrators are voting? To date, I don't think we've run into this. I don't think we've had, the super divergent opinion from how orchestrators are voting versus how the community thinks about whatever they're voting on. Right now, we don't have the biggest community. It's around 50 people. So, orchestrators being a number of those. So we don't have like this super divergent opinion thing happening, but it is something that is possible to happen, especially as Foundation ramps up, presents their strategic recommendations, and then we start kind of pushing on a lot of different angles, especially through the on-chain treasury. So yeah, just curious if people have any opinions or thoughts on, maybe Discord poll would be a good vehicle. Yeah, any perspectives, thoughts that bring up anything for anybody?
Yeah, I think I just want to say it's a nice topic, and I think the thing I want to add here is that I think delegators can vote. They can overrun their orchestrator. So I just want to make that clear
Correct.
to the community. If you don't agree with what your orchestrator is voting, it's possible in the Explorer to vote yourself. And there's also there within, if we make this visible on the Explorer, it will also be visible what the delegators do. But I can imagine that you want a more lightweight version, similar to the snapshots that I think the GovWorks team was already working on. Is that what you're envisioning to gather like a community sentiment? Or
Well, it's open question. I mean, like I think that if we want to do it on chain and it's always going to be there, kind of uncensorable vibes, then snapshot makes the most sense. Instead of just focusing on orchestrator sentiment, we can focus on community sentiment for governance matters. But we could also do a Discord poll. I've explored those in the past. We don't get the most people voting on them, but it is still a pulse check regardless. So yeah, it's kind of an open question, Rick. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
yeah, I think it's a good idea, or at least it's really this information is really valuable, of course, for also I think the governance board for the whole community. I don't directly have like a private way of doing this. I don't. I think if you already tried like surveys, you have some information. I like the snapshot mechanism that I tried out when Jose shared it with me. Um, but it would be very valuable, I think. And the only thing there is, if you want to have a small proportion of LPT, that becomes harder, of course, in like the Discord to do. But snapshot, that's more possible. Otherwise, you have to code it yourself or use another platform.
Right. Yeah, and I think that like the thing we need to be careful about in terms of orchestrator voting power is that, and you see this in a lot of Web3 protocols across the board, but often what will happen is people will delegate, like set it and forget it, and I know people can disagree with me, definitely an open conversation here, but I think what tends to happen, and this is something I've done as well, so I think a protocol that comes to mind is Elrond. I thought this was back when L1s were super expensive, like ETH cost like $50 to do one DeFi swap, and I was kind of exploring other alternative L1s and L2s. This is like years ago at this point, but anyway, I have been delegating there for eons, to the point where they've done so many pivots where like the old delegating portal they had was, is now defunct, and I had to like go in and pull everything out and then swap it to the new one, which is hilarious. But anyway, um, that is an example of I wasn't really a participating member, right? I wasn't looking at how voting was happening. I just wasn't looking at like any votes that were happening on the network for protocol changes, for direction changes. Now Elrond is not as democratic as Livepeer is, but I think the point still stands. We do have a persona that they might be delegating, but they might never care what's happening or have an opinion. And the community, maybe they don't have a lot of delegation stake, but they're kind of participating every single day, or they're always in the Discord and they have a really good grasp on Livepeer's direction, but maybe they only have, let's say, 100 LPT. How do we kind of include people's voices that are participating, who have meaningful contributions or meaningful thoughts to add, and the kind of quote unquote whale who might be delegating and not thinking about it, and is just getting the LPT accrual from their holding. So yeah, that's kind of, I think, from the more mathematical perspective, like that is something I think about frequently with Web3 protocols, in terms of like who is participating and how much stake do they have, and how do we value opinions of people who are coming in and out, and how do we value people who are never here but still hold a lot of LPT. So yeah, I'm not sure if people have thoughts there.
Yeah.
Welcome. Hi.
I mean, I guess this currently biggest orchestrators in terms of voting power. My comment here is just like, I mean, I take my position very seriously, and I for sure read like every post on the forum and in the governance thread before like making a decision. And in that regard, I think it's even like a small stake delegator or orchestrator, if that like a good opinion with a lot of reasoning, it can certainly influence my decision, like no matter what, if it makes sense for me, like why they would vote in a certain way or what they want to change, um, like no matter who they are, if that makes sense to me, then I mean, I guess I'm influenced. So I guess my advice for those smaller stake LPT holders would just be to just post your opinion on Discord or in the forum or both. And I'm sure like most orchestrators with a lot of voting power would read it.
Right, and a follow-up question, Virus, is that for you, would it be helpful if, let's say, there was a kind of a sentiment tool that said, hey, the majority of people voted, and let's say again it's like you hold, let's say, over 10 LPT or something like that. You know, the general sentiment is like everyone's really agreeing with this proposal, even if they didn't make a comment. There was clearly like the community's leaning towards this makes sense for us. Would that be helpful for you, but also other orchestrators in here? Would that be a helpful data point to weigh into decision making?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it would be an interesting data point. I mean, in the end, I of course also have my own opinion, and no matter like what the outcome, it could be that like 90% really support it, but there's something in the proposal that like really bothers me, then I would speak up and vote accordingly. Of course, my delegators would still have the choice to overpower my vote and vote differently. But I mean, it's for sure like a data point. I guess for me, more importantly, would not just be like a yes, no, or maybe, but like the reasoning behind it, because then I can really like that. That is what forms my opinion in the end, like a good reasoning, and not like what the majority thinks.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that That's a good highlight to kind of the reasoning being the most important rather than just a simple yes no. Um, I think that simple yes no can go into is everyone reading it, right? A lot of different things. It is an interesting data point, but that's a good highlight. Thanks for that. Any other big brain thoughts from anybody? If not, we can move on. All right. Well, if anyone has more perspectives, feel free to drop them in governance. I'm actively thinking about this alongside Foundation, so we're kind of actively in the process of understanding what's the best way to help orchestrators make their informed opinions and to make more visible what everyone in the community is thinking in terms of the direction of at least the on-chain treasury. Alrighty, the next topic is Various, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, one small comment regarding voting. I mean, is there like a discussion in terms of hidden voting? Because like one issue that I sometimes have is that if I'm not sure yet about the proposal, if it's not like clear yes or no for me, I don't want to immediately vote in order to not like swing the vote in a certain direction that like people see, well, there's like 20% of all the votes is already yes, so whatever, I can just vote whatever, it doesn't matter. So in that regard, I think one mechanism that would be interesting is like some sort of voting mechanism where it reveals it in the end, like who voted on what. Yeah, maybe that's something that you could think about.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting idea. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I definitely, I think from an Explorer perspective, I think that's something that at least visually on the Explorer could be potentially done. But in terms of on chain, because we're voting on chain, I think if someone just looks on chain, you can see um, the vote, but unless we like change the protocol, I'm not sure if any more technical folks have opinions on that, but definitely something that I can explore. Rick, anything from you on that?
Yeah, so we had the the guys from Livepeer, so also we had them work on like the voting transparency grant. So in there you will see the vote. That's an addition that we added. But I think Virus, you're stating the exact opposite. You want to have the
Right.
ability to hide the vote before you're voting, or is it, or am I misunderstanding that?
Yeah, basically you vote, but nobody else will see. And once the proposal finishes, voting time is up, it reveals who voted what and if it's yes or no.
I think I think it's a harder one to implement as instated. The only thing I can see there is snapshots would help. Just doing a snapshot without revealing it before a proposal goes live.
Yeah.
Of course, it can be done, but it's visible on chain. So
Yeah, so I was saying on the UI side, you could probably, not have the vote show up immediately on Explorer. But if you submit the vote, like Rick is saying, that was my understanding as well. If you submit the vote on chain, right, it's going to show your vote and why, if you put a reason. So I feel like most people are not like doing a data dig on chain, right? I don't think most people are doing that. So I think even though it would still be visible how people are voting from a more like, I'm not sure pragmatic's the right word, but from just a more like how everyone participates in voting, people wouldn't see it because they're not gonna, if Explorer doesn't show it, I don't think they're gonna dig, unless they're maybe a nerd. But no, I'm kidding. But unless they're like a do nerd like me and like they want to make a table or something, it's not likely that I think people would look for it. So I think even though it's not fully doing on a protocol level what you're saying, I think it would still by proxy do it. And saying like, okay, well, no one's just gonna look on chain, and then we'll just wait until we see what the result is.
yeah, I
totally
think it's
agree with that. Yeah.
It's an interesting thought. Thank you, Virus. I haven't talked about it, but of course it influences our voting. And I think the easiest way we can put it down as a feature request. I will do it in the feature request table that we have. And I think the easiest way is just to have the ability before you on the Treasury post, just have the ability to hide like the voting outcome.
Maybe just vote for them. I have noticed you do that, Virus. I was like, yeah, you always wait to the final countdown. But I think it makes sense, right? I think it's very logical if when you have like I don't know what is like 20% or large number of LPT delegated, like it makes sense to wait because I think this is known in voting, just even in democratic literature, that if you have a like a poll that shows like everyone agrees with it, a lot of times people just say, well, okay, and not really do that critical thinking process and be like, well, what do I think? Even if everyone agrees, like maybe I disagree, and giving space for that disagreement and like letting people like make visible their logic or why or why not. It can definitely shut it down. So I really agree with you there. All right. Any other comments before we move on? I'll let Jason keep chat. I know oh my god, you're typing in chat. Did you finish? Right. Well, anyway, I'm a nerd about like on-chain governance, so I'll keep thinking on it. And thank you, everyone who participated and in chat and live or in over voice. So yeah, any other thoughts? Please drop them in governance. Always curious to hear what other folks are thinking. Right. Next up, we have GovWorks comments and accountability. I think those are kind of two topics. So let's just first touch on GovWorks comments. Does anyone have any comments for GovWorks on their impending, sounds so negative, but impending proposal, or just how things have gone so far? Any feedback as they're writing the proposal?
I can maybe do a follow up because there were some comments from Define in the chat
Yeah, sure.
during the presentation. So Define asked, how does Karma Gap help with accountability when there is no examination mechanism to uncover any lack of transparency? Um, mm, Probably I will need. Oh, Define left. Ah, no, Define is here.
No, Define's
Can you give some further explanation? What do you mean here, especially like there is no examination mechanism to uncover any lack of transparency?
Absolutely. So if you go on the actual board and see the SPs and the SPs that they submitting the updates, you will see that the SP that has submitted the most updates is the education and experience SP. Now, no fingers pointed at anyone, but I would consider Son's performance and milestones to be at least abstract, if not very questionable. But if I go on the karma board and if I was taking a decision based on that, and also 100% complete, that gives me the idea that this SP was vetted and was approved, and that the milestones were approved and the updates were approved. So it kind of, I do not understand exactly how you check what has been completed and what has not been completed, or maybe I'm not seeing something that you have implemented.
Yeah, that's great feedback. So and yeah, the education and experience SP is a good showcase on why people would fill in milestones. So at the moment, our main goal is that um, teams fill in their milestones. That doesn't mean that the milestones are um, um, at the moment they're not reviewed, but we are working on the first step is that the milestones in the proposal are clear and actionable. So not only saying what are they going to do, but providing like a timeline for filling it. So that's what the ENESP did. And then once those milestones are completed, they can sign them as completed and then provide some um, further explanation on what did they do, proof of work. So they showed some links that justify the completion of the milestones. So if you go through the ENESP in Karma, that I can paste the link here, they under each milestone that was already set in the proposal, they signed it on chain as completed, and then they provided an explanation and rationale on what did they do related to that milestone, and sometimes links that justify that completion. So I think this for this team was already good enough because they were explaining what did they do, providing some links to events that they were taking with like peer branding. So their SPE was related to events and marketing, and they were providing like proof that these events were fulfilled. So we're happy with that, but anyone in the community is free to go there and then do another review and then complain if something is not properly justified, or if they think that the deliverables were low standard. That's actually what we encourage, that people go on and check them and surface any misalignment with NESP. But for us at this stage, because it's like early stage, for us it was already good that they went onto the platform, signed in their milestones, and provide a justification for them. And in this case, the Education and Experience SPE did it because they wanted to get further funding. So this is one of the points that we want to encourage actually. So if people want to request further funding, they see that there is a need for transparency, and they will come here and provide justification for previous deliverables. So of course we also want teams that do not seek immediate funding to fill this transparency report, but especially the ones that want to get additional funding come here and just showcase what they have been doing in the past. This is at the moment uh, the main vision for Karma Gap.
So I think this is a great explanation, but I think there are also other 2 points that need discussing. The first is, why do we need Karma Gap just for having the extra of the, let's say, milestone visual representation and a signature, instead of having a process where every SP has a forum thread and they can do posts there, which also greatly makes it way less complex for people to do, and just because it's an extra cognitive process to just go to Karma Gap, do all that work, and have this extra reporting step. So this is, I think, the first topic. And the second one is that I don't think that many of the members here have the time to actually go and see. I know many SPs that do a retrospective or posting consistent updates or the showcasing the work, but uh, if you are putting that over there and require people to go and check it, it's an extra step that just make things more complicated. So maybe the process of actually verifying the milestones could be outsourced to the GovWorks SV,
Yeah, definitely. That's very good feedback. So first on the platform, Karma, we're also exploring it. Like it's an onboarding process, and I would say, well, the teams that we have collaborated more closely to, they end up um, understanding how to do it. Like the E&E filled it, and some other teams have already filled the milestones. And to be honest, to me, it looks clearer in this format than, for example, in the past. In the forum, we're also requesting teams to post updates and accountability checks. And even though everyone knows how to use the forum, we were receiving very little feedback or very little response from teams because, as you mentioned, um, people are not incentivized to do so. So I think not on it's not only on the platform. Like at the end, we're all mostly crypto native, so Karma is relatively easy to understand for a crypto native person. It's more on the incentives, like what is the incentive for teams to fill in these milestones. And in the case of Karma, we're trying to make it very easy because we ourselves as GovWorks fill the milestones because they are already included in the proposal. So the teams actually only have to check them and provide like a justification. So we bring everything like just to be checked and justified, so they don't have to fill in their own stuff. We try to do it as easy as possible for contributors. But yeah, definitely happy to hear the feedback. If you consider like Karma is too complicated to use or is not actually necessary and forum posts would be enough, that's we are all ears for this type of feedback because the engagements are ongoing, so we have flexibility to choose one or another. And then you also raised the issue. What was your second point again? Sorry.
So the second point was regarding um, regarding the
Verification.
uh, yes, the verification to be outsourced to GovWorks instead of
Ah,
the members. Yes.
yeah, exactly. So I particularly mentioned that people could go on the E&E because also we have seen many teams like approaching, we can call them like almost inactive SPs. Like we already know that there are some SPs that are, if not totally finished, like almost finished, and but people still request from them some justification or some transparency reports. So it's not that we expect all contributors to check all the milestones from all SPs, but sometimes there are like specific points in the ecosystem that a certain SP milestones are interesting or relevant. Like for example, in the ENE education and experience, if they are requesting a second phase of funding, maybe people are curious to see what have they developed in their first phase of funding. So of course, we want to improve communications and be able to surface this to the community easily in Discord, and we also do it in our governance reports. But if people know the link for Karma Gap, they can also go and check themselves if they think this contribution was so noticeable to grant a second phase. Or in the case of fantasy, this interactive video SP that people were a bit concerned about, if they had filled the milestones, they can go and check at least what were the progress look. So the idea is not that everyone checks everything, but sometimes there are moments where it's relevant to see what has been the progress of certain SPs.
Totally agree on that. And just a last comment, if after the completion of um, a milestone, there was also some GovWorks comments on that milestone or a verification of, okay, you have actually completed the milestone. You have not made me believe that you completed the milestone. I have checked that. I have checked your your events are real, I have checked your tech is real, you have proved to me it works with tests, then it would be much easier, cognitively easier for the orchestrators to just go to the Karma Gap board and make an informed decision without spending so much time dwelling on the community and trying to just synthesize everything that it was happening.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay, yeah, that's very good feedback, and actually we think it's a good idea. So having like a trusted member verify this type of milestones. And in our case, for example, we can foresee that not only us, but us as a link between contributors and advisory boards, if not ourselves, like probably events or things happening in real life, we can verify. But even for more technical milestones, if we cannot verify them ourselves because we don't have the technical knowledge, we can also try to appoint someone that can at least provide like a soft review that these milestones have been completed either in GitHub or some other repositories. So that's really appreciated. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Thank
Yeah.
you, sir. And I believe, sorry, and
Go ahead.
just want to, I believe that the foundation also could be the one that verifies the technical milestones on that side, and it will give great confidence, I believe, to the orchestrators.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say that on the accountability topic, I have a few thoughts here. So I think first, I agree with a lot of what you both said. Um, my kind of solution here would be for GovWorks to do, whether it be a monthly, or maybe it could be longer, shorter. It depends. But GovWorks gives us reports on the progress of different SPs in terms of their goals, and that could be a simple progress bar, like 80% are complete of the intended goals, or it could be you list the ones that are complete or incomplete if people want a more in-depth view. But I think having that be something that GovWorks does, Jose, would be smart. Secondly, I think in terms of SPEs for accountability, I think as a community, we have to really think hard about what is a fair expectation, right? I felt that having the holistic review monthly was a bit much. I think Karma Gap is a bit more approachable time wise. So instead of writing a long report, updating the Karma Gap interface, and then GovWorks having a report that they write on everyone's updates, I think would be pretty easy. But still, we have had a number of examples where people create SPs and then don't follow through with everything. So like fantasy was one example of that. So I guess my question to everybody is what do we think is fair when evaluating SPEs? I don't think we've ever spoken explicitly about our opinions here, but I think making how we feel visible would be helpful, at least I think for me and GovWorks, as well as Foundation, to understand how is the community thinking about accountability themselves. Totally cool if there's no thoughts on that. Any other comments or questions? No, you're fine, Rick. right. Anything else from you, Jose, that you want to share?
No, if there are no more questions or comments, yeah, thanking everyone, Define also for the comments and everyone for listening. And we're always approachable to anyone in the community.
Also, Mike, I know you had mentioned you had some Karma Gap questions. Did you want to ask those now, or did you want to, or were they not super concrete ones?
Nah, I was just a bit surprised to see our SPE listed with 2 milestones and no activity. I mean, we've provided tons of contents, but I think it goes back to what Define was saying. I was surprised to see that it was a bit more involved to go through and edit it. So it's no big deal. I'm actually finishing the updates right now. I'm going to completely update the Karma Gap site so that it reflects the true status of our SPE. I think we've proposed 2 proposals and we've completed 2 proposals. So I'm going to make sure that Karma Gap is reflective of the effort. So I don't mind the additional work of updating it. I mean, I think, to some degree it may be a bit redundant, but I think forum posts, we have our website, and now we'll update Karma Gap. And I think, find people where they are and we will provide the feedback necessary. So I think I'm good now. But again, I just was a bit caught off guard to see our SPE listed with nothing. So we'll address that.
Yeah, Mike, you definitely have done a ton. So I think it was more on the, getting all the things updated. Do you think it would be helpful? And then, Jose and I can talk about this in terms of GovWorks stuff, but I'm thinking that it might be better if we say, hey, you don't have to do this. Maybe at the end of the SP you can do a long form post, but I'm thinking maybe, Jose, that we have GovWorks do, maybe it's bi-weekly or monthly reports on each SPE, and then the only expectation is maybe doing the Karma Gap and keeping that up to date, so then they don't have to be thinking about, oh, I have to write this long report every month to get people updated. How does that sit with you, Jose?
Yeah, it's a great heads up. So one of the reasons, and I'm really sorry, Mike, that you found yourself a bit surprised, that we were emphasizing new SPs into onboarding Karma Gap because we have been communicating frequently with many SPs and SPs that had a finished duration. So, for example, in the case of the Cloud SP, we included them all just as a legacy um, record of SPs, but we were focusing more the follow up on the ones that had like ongoing milestones. So, of course, Cloud SP has delivered a lot, but if you see the milestones are more based on the duration of the SP, they're all completed. So we focused efforts on new SPs and SPs that had still ongoing uh, uh, duration for their mandate, for their funding. So I'm really sorry that we were not doing like a proper follow-up, but I'm super happy that you want to fill them up, and also we will make our best efforts also to surface it to the community and show all the progress that you include in there.
Yeah, I'll take care of all that. Like I said, we're not done, right? Our SPE is still alive and kicking. We're out here working every day, contributing to Livepeer, and we're not going to stop. I think we haven't received an additional proposal at this point, but we fully intend on continuing to build with the community. So we definitely are still active and working. So I'll address it. No need to apologize. I think it's fine. Like I said, I'm going to get that updated and give, transparency is our keystone. We don't want to be out here thinking folks are, our group is taking advantage of the treasury. We've done all I think we can to be transparent, and we'll continue to do those things.
Yeah, Mike, I don't think anyone just me. I don't know if you feel any type of way, but I don't think anyone thinks that about you or Speedy Bro. I think you guys have been like huge parts of the community, so no stress. But yeah, no, I do think having these processes in place will help us make more visible what's going on, because everyone's working in their own lane, and I think it is important that we do have some like frequent communication about SPEs. Oh my god, I just broke my pen. But I think it is important we have consistent communication. So I'll be working on that with GovWorks and trying to get a more consistent pulse. So folks can like stay up to date and say, oh yeah, yeah, I see all the stuff they're doing. That's super cool. And maybe the people want to tap into the efforts you're working on. And I think sometimes doing it in this format even is still hard because it's sync. Not everyone can make it. Some people are busy. They miss a week. They miss 3 weeks of the what's happening in the community, and they might miss an opportunity that would fit for them. So the more we can write down everything, and the more we can make visible what's going on, the more synergistic relationships can be built within the community. All right. Anything else on that topic?
One last comment from my side. In our particular case, we had, for example, extra work that is not included in our latest proposal, which we did, including the legal side and the SARA project as well. And also, there was a change that we basically implemented the what we had for months 5 and 6 during months 2 and 3 and months 3 and 4 coming later. So when you have those kind of things happening to you, I think we should also have a workflow on addressing um, those kind of changes on the SP roadmap and make it a more flexible and b allow people to to account for overcommitment or overachieving in some particular uh, pylon that they have submitted on their proposals.
Awesome. Thank you, Define, for that comment. Did you want to go into your topics now? Yours being
Yes.
Define.
Thank you very much, then. So, guys, we introduce you the two new lower members of RSP. I will explain you the reasoning behind uh, this new addition. So we want JNJN to do the legal research for the goal of our legal roadmap and just go after each element of the roadmap, each component, craft the research. Then what we are doing is that we are communicating with a specialist lawyer for that particular component, and then we have our two legal experts draft a memorandum from the communications with that specialized lawyer and the research they did. And this greatly reduces our legal costs, and we have a lot of legal work to do. For those who are not familiar, not we're dealing with AML issues for resuming the pipeline. We're dealing with what exact legal wrapper the agent SP needs to have so that we have the adequate liability to move on with additional future proposals and with moving on with the LLC wrappers we need for autonomous agent. And then we also have the issue of legal entities for autonomous agents. And I will give you a hint, we also work in tokenization of agents, which we believe that we will have a great impact on the economic structure of the network as launchpad for agents, but we will give you more details on that on the upcoming week. So we have all those kind of issues. We have a limited budget, and so this was our strategic approach of running a very tight and overachieving legal team, legal roadmap without spending 200 and 300K on legal fees or 50K, which we could not commit like immediately to all those legal issues. So this is regarding the legal side. We're working on um, the current thing we're working on. The legal is we want to finish with the AML, with the sanction entities considerations, and just resume the pipeline. So we're looking to do that possibly this week or start of the next week, worst case scenario, and resume the incentives. And that's the legal updates and the updates on the pipeline. On the tech side updates, we be working on releasing the production version of our VTuber agents, and I finished, as you saw on the previous fireside, the character API, which you are able to load different characters and just configure exactly the kind of agent and VTuber that you want. And today I finished and tested the stimuli system, which was the only missing component for bringing the whole system together. Basically, for those who are not familiar, we have the avatar side of the application, which is system one. It's fast thinking, it's producing speeds, it produces the blend shapes, which are also produced by LLM, and it also has the avatar, the Unreal Engine, the game side. And we are also having the system 2, which is the slow thinking system, which has all the tooling and is able to do Twitter posts, to write code, to do financial equations, etc., etc. And we created a stimuli orchestration system, which is able to receive external inputs, external information, and that can be social media updates, it can be admin updates, it can be contextual updates, tweet, chat, streams of messages from viewers, and everything that is happening that the VTuber agent needs to be aware of. And what is happening in that system is that it receives the stimuli, it receives the external information, and then it decides what the action is, and it routes it to the appropriate system. So it can route it to only the avatar system 1, or it can route it to both system 1 and system 2, or only log it and route it to system 2. So I'm debugging currently the version. I expect in the next couple of days to have it fully debugged and tested as a whole, and to actually release it with the whole documentation, not only to be used in the bring your own container, but also for other developers to become finally able to easily produce code and do PRs and fork the repository for them. So this is what I've been working on, and we are. It is very likely more than 90% that this week we will release that, and we will start to have the agents doing a profit and loss test in at least 2 business domains. So the 2 business domain is trading, because it does not require an avatar, and we want to also test that user case, and streaming for start, and we will expand to other categories as well. If anyone has any question about any of those 2 topics, please let us know. We're also exploring more, let's say, interfaces for our updates, so using the forum or updating the Karma Gap, so that you don't only have the VTuber channel for updates. And of course, Titan and Phoenix are not here, but they are doing amazing work on the product side with the Sarah launch, and we're very proud of that. And I think you should also maybe watch the Sarah for tokenization purposes as things evolve.
Thanks for those updates, DeFi. Any questions? Oh, we have a hand raised in the audience. 1 second. Welcome up, retake.tv.
Oh,
Did you have a comment for DeFi?
no, that's it. I was just saw that like you're live, so I wanted to join. Go Define, go Agent SP, go Livepeer.
Awesome. Welcome in. Thank you. Okay. Well, if we don't have any comments for DeFi, that was the last topic we had for today. Except Rick was said asking for questions. If anyone has any questions for Foundation, but if you don't, no worries there. Yeah. Any other topics or comments or questions people want to ask before we wrap up for the day?
And would you like to see a live presentation of our co-host that we hopefully will bring to Livepeer as a container? Like actually dodging Rick for about 2 months, but like we are supposed to do it. So if you want to see something cool, I can showcase. It will take a minute.
Say
Nothing more.
how many minutes? What?
1 minute.
So we did a change. So if you don't want a presentation, we can do actually one on Wednesday for the fireside. We have a pretty light schedule, so we can add you in there, and you can present.
I don't know if I will be on Wednesday, to be honest, because we are on a lunch, but no worries. I was just wanted, like, it could just take a minute, but no worries if not.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to share, I mean, I don't have any issue with that.
Yalla, 1 second. Pardon. So, like, I just want to showcase, like, in context to, like, the agent SP and, like, the all AI pipeline, what can be the benefits of, like, the user experience of, like, agent plus a live stream. Do you see that?
It's still
This
loading
video.
for me.
Curl Shark.
Um,
It's showing now.
Is it showing up for other people? I don't see it yet. Okay. Well, I
Okay,
just won't see it. Go ahead then.
Are you able to talking to me, Rita?
Did someone say Rita? I'm always here like a cat waiting for its treat. What's the haps?
You
Holy
get the sound?
shit, you are... This is actually really interesting. Holy crap.
Alright, let's see what kind of plays you've got. But if I see some click-to-play tomfoolery, I'm out.
That's funny. Right there, it's right
Dudes
there.
rocking the anonymous cosplay IRL? Watch out for those guys. They might dox your gameplay.
Damn, it's actually interesting. I gotta say, it's really cool.
Okay. This is the end of my of me taking some promotional minutes. But like this is like the co-host thing is like, I don't know, like it's the whole thing of like agents plus live streams looks like a big unlock, not just like Rita. Like I just wanted to showcase that fact. Like people are really like it's kind of open a new like experience when live streaming.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks like people are liking that. And I definitely, we should definitely DM me because I'd love to have you guys on the fireside, even if it's next week. And you can showcase what you've been doing over the past number of months. I know you have been doing a lot of cool stuff. So.
Thank you. Actually, the MD on the Telegram, if you'll check it.
Okay, I'll check there. Yeah, well,
Thank you for everything again and for the whole Livepeer community. We love you guys.
Awesome. Okay, well, we can wrap it up for today. I just wanted to give it, I want everyone here to give themselves a pat on the back. I really think in the process of SPs and, over the last number of months, it is very clear how hard it is to build a decentralized network, and all of the, kind of like cultural and like governance learnings that we've had and have to do. So anyway, I just think that like we're doing a massive undertaking, and I feel really proud of everybody for continuing to show up, continuing to work through it, and all the annoying points, and the willing to learn how to build a culture of decentralization and actually execute on that. I think at least for my time in Web3, what we've done at Livepeer is far and beyond a lot of other places. So just want to say that y'all are great. And until next time, I will see you on Wednesday if you want to come to Fireside. And if not, good luck with everything else this week. Bye, y'all.
See ya, guys.
Thank you, and see you guys.